Hello everyone, my name is Corme, and this season I've decided to main a Mistweaver. Last week we chested a 25 Waycrest Manor, which I'm now going to try and give you guys some commentary on. So the affixes this week were quaking, teeming, and fortified. So normally when we start Waycrest Manor, what we usually like to do is shroud this first set of soul essences and go straight into the obelisk. Now, as a Mistweaver for the Sphere Obelisk, you want to make sure that you always have Revival when you go in so that you can dispel all the fears on everyone. It's one of the unique utilities that you can bring to a group. So we're going to go in, we're going to Revival, pop away, spin, and try and kill all these flesh beasts. These put a nasty dot on your tank, or they'll put it on any other melee if your tank is not in range. If you don't want your tank to get any of the stacks, you can also have, as you can see, our rogue reposted back there, and he's taking down some of the fleets for our tank instead. So after the revival, you want to prioritize dispelling your tank. If you're running with a warrior or a DK, they do have immune to these fears. However, these immunes do not make them immune to the damage from the fear. I actually don't know if that's true for DK, but I think that's true, sorry. So if they do have a lot of dots and they have the fear and they have an immune, you might still want to dispel them just to make sure that they lived. After that, you can just dispel your DPS. Unless you feel like there's some healing that you need to do, then you can dispel it yourself so you can get some healing out. So we're going to be dragging Samrek the Beckoner into the courtyard, and we're going to pull the Thorn Guard, the two Thorn Shapers, and all the dogs together as kind of like a pull to get our mages combust back up. And then after that, we're going to Lust and pull Matron Brindle. I think Brindle is the one that's in front of Soulbound Goliath here with the two Thorn Shapers and the Thorn Guard that's there because of teaming, and we're going to Lust that. So right now we're just getting Samrek down. Then we're going to go out the portal. Okay, so this pull has a lot of kicks, which means a lot of the soul thorns get to go through. Now, thankfully, as a Mistweaver, you can dispel this, or a paladin, or as a priest, which makes it a lot easier to deal with this pull. If you're something like a druid, you kind of have to do a lot of extra healing if you do a pull like this. Something to look out for, though, is if the infected thorns do sync up and go on one person and you don't stop either of them, it will kill them. We're gonna see that happen to the mage here. So both of them target the mage, but he has Cauterize. However, he gets uprooted into a fire. There were a few things we could have done to stop that. We could have stopped maybe one of the infected thorns. We could have stunned them when they were casting the uproot. He could have blocked. Either way, it's not going to be too detrimental to us because this pull isn't that scary with the one DPS down. Just getting kicks. That's Soul. The Thorn Guard does have a lot of the stacks, but since it's almost dead, we're not going to really worry about purging it too much. And our tank, he's running the Conflict and Strife Clap Major, so he's able to just root it and stay out of range so he doesn't get hit by it. So I'm going to res the mage here, and we're going to get ready for our Lust pull. So in this dungeon, I chose to use a Mage's Ignition Fuse instead of maybe like a Rathian Trinket, which would give me more consistent haste or something, or the Mott Trinket, which would give you back a lot of mana, just because there's some bigger, scarier pulls where I think that having Ignition's Fuse has a lot of value to press it with Way, and this is probably one of those pulls, even though we already have Lust and I don't need it. This pull, if you don't have Lust, is probably a lot scarier. I don't really know if it's doable. Most groups opt to either pull Matron Brindle by themselves, but since that's such a big time loss, a lot of groups actually just use their rogue to pull her to the side and skip it. But if you take this route and you Lust this pull, it's pretty efficient. I think we do this pull in like less than a minute. You get a lot of count for it. So you just want to watch out for when Matron Brindle is channeling that Thorn Barrage on your tank. And if you can, as you can see, our tank is positioning those mobs in the fire. So Matron Brindle and all these mobs in the courtyard take damage from the fire. If you pull anything out of the hallways and you try to drag them into the fire, it won't do damage to them. But anything in this courtyard will take damage to the fire. And I think it takes quite a bit of damage. I want to say like 7% per tick, but that also sounds a little bit too big to me. But yeah, being able to pull them in that fire also speeds up this pull a lot. So after we do that, we go into the obelisk. Again, we're trying to reset Combust again for when we go into the boss. And get some CDs back. So this is pretty boring. We're just going to base take Urgoth. I shouldn't say base tank. Our tank is going to run away sometimes. Base take Urgoth in this room, kill him, and then we're going to go into the boss. There's nothing really too special about this, so I'm going to go ahead and skip it. Okay, so Urgoth is going down. He's gonna go out the portal. I usually just stay in whenever we're about to pull a boss so I can get a drink and don't have to waste time channeling. Where'd it go? Something to note, so usually on a lot of bosses, you're thinking of the high damage phase and you're thinking of saving your Way of the Crane for the high damage phase. However, on this fight, you can't use your Way of the Crane when your tank is dragging Soulbound Goliath into the fire because that's where all the little red guys spawn. And all the red guys, since you don't really do damage to them, they just immediately go to your healer and you immediately get healer thrown on them. So if you try to stay in there and Way of the Crane and heal through it, you're just going to die to the melees. Pretty sure at this level, those melees are going to hit you like at least 300k. It'll take almost no globals at all for you to die if you try and Way of the Crane during that. So I press Way of the Crane, I use my Thunder Focus Tea to get some value out of that, but now I'm holding it for when he goes into the fire, because when he goes in the fire, I want to use my Thunder Focus Tea with an RSK to get that extra versatility on myself as a kind of DR, and also because it's just good for group healing. So I have to go in the fire, so I'm going to RSK, and I'm going to run away. I press Essence Font because I have to move away a little bit. It's not a spell that's really that efficient to press normally. And then after that, we're just going to sit here and chill for a little bit and wait for my Way of the Crane to come back up, and I'm going to do some damage as these red guys are despawning. So I think I'm going to wait until after these Soul Thorns. Mistweavers don't have a way to immune the Soul Thorns the way that Resto Shamans and Resto Druids do. So if we get the Soul Thorns, we kind of just have to watch out. It's really important, especially like when you drag, because normally you wait until after the Soul Thorns goes out to drag Goliath into a fire. So it's really important that when you do that, that your melee know that you're kind of standing out for the next Soul Thorns, because you're like trying to get hit by the melee guys, so they'll come out and they'll break you out, because the Soul Thorns actually does take for a lot. So here, so I thought my tank was going to drag him into that fire, and I didn't see it disappear, so I popped my diffuse a bit too early, so I'm not going to get full value on the diffuse here. I also didn't quite have Thunder Focus Tea up for when we went into the fire there, so I didn't do the Thunder Focus Tea RSK. But thankfully we still have these. So those red guys are coming in, but they're disappearing, so it's safe for me to go in and damage. And then the boss is going to go down. Alright, so next up we're going to gear to pull some of the mobs out of the hallway. I think we're going to get like 6 maggots, a few peasants, and some pigs. So the only real scary thing is the maggots that come with, and the maggots that spawn out of the peasant. And I want to point out to you, so you can see our mage is up in the fountain. You can see him blinking over there. We'll get an angle on it in a second. So it's best if you can have a ranged DPS go up in the fountain for you, and the reason is because, so number one, if you're a Mistweaver, you want to be in melee and you want to be doing damage, which is pretty much true as well for Resto Druids and Holy Paladins. The other thing is, it's kind of scary being up in that fountain as a healer, because it's really easy for you to get threat, and if you get threat, everything's going to snap onto the fountain. So if you're a Resto Druid, you either don't pre-hot, or if you pre-hot, you have to stay in stealth for a long time and make sure that your tank has all the threat before you can pop out of there. But really just a foolproof way to make sure you don't have to worry about it is just if you have a hunter, a mage, a shadow priest, elemental shaman, whatever kind of range you have up there, you put them up there. If you're in a group without any ranged DPS and you want to have someone stand in the fountain. Oh, I forgot to mention, the reason you stand in the fountain is because if everyone's in melee and someone is in the fountain, the gorgers don't jump. That is important to note. This poll we're doing, we actually don't have a gorger in though, but he's just there and getting prepped. So yeah, so if you do have to stand in the fountain though, just make sure that you don't have your Jade statue on the tank. And you want to try and make sure you don't have any renewing miss out, because say you like have on like your rogue, as soon as your tank comes back, they're going to have taken damage and that renewing miss is going to travel to them, and then those mobs might snap to you. Because your tank isn't really going to get a lot of threat when they're going in there and just gathering everything up. Anyways. So I'm standing over here, line of sighting, making sure I'm not going to get meleeed as soon as I come out the corner. Waiting. Waiting. Okay, now I'm going to weigh the crane. It's getting a little bit scary because my tank does have a lot of stacks. But it's really important that you be patient as a healer, so you don't just go in and get whacked to death. Just gonna weigh this down. Easily heals through all the maggots. We have like a couple maggots left, but they're just gonna die. Not really sure what hit me there, but that That was kind of painful. Okay, so after that, we just have these 3 peasants left, and something to watch out for with these peasants as... So when the peasants die, they spawn maggots. So basically all 3 of these peasants are going to die at the same time, and it's instantly going to spawn 9 maggots. And if you stay in melee, you run the risk of them all turning and whacking you because you're a healer. You're immediately going to have all the threat on them because nobody else is going to be able to do damage to them as soon as they spawn. So if you stand in melee, there's a good chance you're going to get melee 9 times and instantly die when those spawn. So another thing is, so these 9 maggots spawn, and you kind of have a choice here if you want to press way here. So you can press way and get some value before the maggots die. You probably won't get full value on your, you might get full value on your way of the crane, but the main reason I don't press it here is because I want to make sure I have it for the next pull on pull. So gotta kind of heal through, like I think that you probably get like at least 12 spits there or something because you're kind of dry on damage and nobody wants to use their damage because the big pull's next. Alright, so we see our mage faunting. Our tank's gonna go in there and he's gonna pull almost all of Raoul's room once again. We want to go over here, we want to make sure we're lining so that we aren't immediately getting threat on everything when it comes around the corner. Once we see most of it in, we can start going in way of the craning. Alright, so this pull is going to get a little bit messy, and here's why. So, the stewards do an AoE attack, that, called Dinner Bell, which does damage to everyone, and it also silences everyone. Now we have 3 stewards, which means we should have enough kicks. However, I don't think we assigned kicks. I think we just kind of like YOLO'd it. So normally what happens is I usually wait a little bit longer to press way, and I end up getting silenced at some point. But when you're in way of the crane, you can still spinning crane kick if you're silenced. So normally we just get to live. However, what happens here is... So one goes off, and then another one goes off. So we're all really low. And then the problem is that our tank gets silenced, and so he wants me to ring a piece, which I can't do. And as we're sitting here, I see another dinner bells going off, so I make the decision to run forward. So I could have ran to the side and ran the risk of a Gorger jumping on me. I could have stayed back and ate the silence, or I could run forward and, you know, I was hoping that like the silence would fall off fast enough for me to be able to roll away and not get hit by the wretch. I think that's what I was thinking. It's kind of hard to remember what I was thinking. Either way, it was a bad decision, and the wretch goes off and I die. Shortly after that, the tank dies. Luckily, rogues have something called riposte. They get to keep the pull alive, and our demon hunter can go ahead and res the tank, and then res me, and we get to recover. It's really important on that fight, if you can, to try and assign kicks. Especially, I should say especially if you're not a Mistweaver, because there is a way to kind of heal as a Mistweaver if you do get silenced at some point, but it's a bit unreliable. If you're silenced, you can't cast Wave of the Crane, by the way. You can only do it, you can only just, it's only if you are already in Wave of the Crane will it not affect you that much. So that gets a little bit messy, but we just finish off these Gorgers. Alright, so we're going to finish off these Gorgers, and next we're going to go ahead and pull Raoul. After we res our Demon Hunter. Just going to kind of skip forward here. So we engage Raoul. And we have like one little piglet left. Some groups choose to bait the Rotten Expulsion always over here in this corner, so they're always like stacked together and you don't cover the room in green. We choose to just YOLO it and paint the whole room green and fill the room up with bad stuff. Yeah, this fight's pretty easy. You can help out your team by either ringing the servants and capping the servants as soon as they spawn so you don't have to deal with it, or leg sweeping. If he gets any stacks, it's really not a big deal unless you're standing and stuff. Like, almost all the damage on this fight is avoidable. Okay, so after Raoul, we are going to, since we got top right, which isn't really the best door for anyone's pathing. So we already did the middle obelisk. So we're going to go into the kitchen, and we're going to kill everything in the kitchen, and then we're going to take the blob, and we're going to go to Heartsbane Triad, because right now, our lust is off CD. And that's where we want to go lust. So I'm going to go ahead and skip some of this. Okay, he's almost dead. So when you go into the kitchen, it's really, really nice if you have Way of the Crane up, because there's usually at least 9 maggots in there, and then there's a Heartsbane Runeweaver. The Runeweaver isn't so bad. It is bad if everyone is standing in the cleave because you don't have a curse to spell. Let's make sure you get a drink. Everyone runs in there. It's good to try and use your stuns here, but usually these die pretty quickly. If you have way up, you're not really... nobody's in any real danger because they'll die pretty quickly. Everyone's got their pad ready for this pull, especially after Raoul. Okay, so we're just killing the Runeweaver basically here. You can just let the Etch cast. Or channel on someone, I should say. Because it doesn't really do that much damage. You will have to probably give them 1 or 2 Vivifies at this level of key. So killing the Runeweaver. So we pull the blob. So this blob is kind of tricky to snap all the tentacles. You can see that one in the back just kind of wailing away on us. So we're not able to AoE it. Honestly, Waycrest is just feels really awful for like every obelisk except maybe the kick one, but the kick one is in such a bad spot. You never even play the kick one on anything except the last boss. We had the corridors and stuff make it hard. As you can see, our rogue goes down. So we're trying to snap it again. Trying to AoE these down. It's also unfortunate that because we got top right, we did the tank buster first, and now we have these cysts out here in the courtyard. So we have to kind of take a long way around the courtyard, and then we're gonna have to go upstairs through the balcony to get to Heartsbane Triad because we got top right. Just gonna keep killing the blood. We have 1 more tentacle left. I believe something happens here that makes me use my cocoon, which kind of makes Heartsbane Triad a bit Monka-esque for me. Yeah, so we have to kind of hug this because we don't want to get slowed by the cysts. I have to go around because the bush was in my way. Oh yeah, I get stunned in all those circles because I had to go around, so I had to cocoon. Anyways, so now we have to drag the blob upstairs into the room. So normally we pull this pack before we do the boss. We kill the toads and then we drag I can't remember her name. We drag her into the boss. However, I think like our mage like already fonted or something, and we're just like, okay, we just want to pull the boss, and we just decide that after the blob, we're going to pull Heartsbane Triad. Oh yeah, no, he's fonting now. We just wanted to go, I guess. So once again, just drink in the realm. That way you get your maximum drink off instead of taking the time to channel and get out of the portal. If you're in front of a boss, of course. It's gonna pull the boss. So on the first sister, Selena, you should not use anything. The only damage you're really taking is from the bolts from Briar and Malady going off on your DPS. You really shouldn't have to worry about your tank almost ever. And you have the 15% healing reduction aura on you, so most of the healing you do is kind of moot anyways. Maybe you start putting some renews out. That's usually what I like to do to get ready for the next phase. Something else that's important to note here is that you want to make sure that everyone is standing in melee for this first sister. And that's so that you can save your immunity. So if you have a hunter or you have a mage and they want to save block or turtle, mostly because they want it for the jagged nettles on Briar, you want to make sure that they're standing in melee. So that as soon as they get MC'd, you can stun them and stop them from doing that. Same thing goes for our demon hunter. We're going to stun him so he doesn't use his nether. Same thing for a rogue. We're going to stun him so he doesn't use his riposte or cloak. So it goes on our rogue. So he's instantly stunned, so he doesn't pop anything. And then really important when you're running with a fire mage, as soon as someone comes out of that MC, you want to make sure you dispel them because there's going to be a big ignite on them because your mage just combusted. Same thing if your mage is the one who gets MC'd and you guys all get, or not all, but some of you guys get ignite on you, that's a really good spot for a revival. Okay, so we're going to do Selena. We're going to push her before we get another MC. Okay, so Malady. So Malady is the one that you want to use Way of the Crane on because it's a lot of healing that you need. And also you have to keep moving, otherwise the Aura of Dread stacks are going to keep stacking up. So it's gonna be really, so you have to remember that Way of the Crane is on a smart heal. As long as there's 2 people next to you that are taking damage, it doesn't matter that your mage is in the back and is barely hanging out with on 10% health and your rogue and your demon hunter are only missing like 5,000 health each. Way of the Crane will just choose to heal those melee and it'll just heal them and it'll keep doing it. So you want to communicate with your range player, whether it's a hunter or a mage or shadow priest, whatever it is, that if they want healing during Sister Malady, they need to come closer. And since they can't always do that because of the AoE, you also maybe have to stop in the middle of your Way of the Crane and put some Vivifies on them. It's also what I usually like to do if I'm scared, is I will put my statue on them because I know that everyone in melee is going to be fine. Here I don't even think I have my statue active. I'm gonna have a So I have also Mage's Ignition Fuse, so this Way of the Crane, this phase isn't too scary for me. Yeah, also make sure if it's a mage, you tell them to dispel themselves out of the group, then come towards melee. So yeah, since I have Way of the Crane, and I have Ignition Fuse, and our rogue, sorry, pops Cloak, it's not very scary at all. Alright, so and also something else to note, while you're in Malady, it's okay for you to use Diffuse, but you should never use Fort Brew. Because you need Fort Brew if Sister Briar targets you with the Jagged Nettles. You have no other way to live except for Cocoon, which since I use on the blob, I'm not going to have. So we're doing Briar. So almost everyone has an immunity except me. Oh, I shouldn't say that. The rogue vanishes, and if it goes on him again, he's in a spooky place. So yeah, so I Fort Brew. What happens is I Fort Brew, and then at the same time, Malady put a rune as bowl to me, so it made it get really sketchy. But thankfully I get to live. Normally, I would probably Fort Brew and Cocoon that if I was not fully topped. But since I didn't have Cocoon for 2 more seconds, I didn't really have that option. It's pretty easy to heal up yourself. Yeah, it's also really important when you get to that to communicate with your rogue. Okay, like, rogue, if you get it on you, you're gonna vanish, or do I need to Cocoon you? Because otherwise you might waste your Cocoon on them, or you might expect that they're gonna vanish and they don't. So then we go back to Selena. So then we're mostly just gonna be trying to do damage here. Our rogue popped her post so that if we got him seed, that it wouldn't that wouldn't ruin us. So our mage gets MC'd and we instant stun him because he still has block available, and we still want him to have that block for when we get back to Sister Briar. Getting Selena, so it gets a little sketchy here with the 50% healing DR when you're spending a lot of time in this phase. It's really important that when you get to Selena that you're topped. Okay, so now we're going back to Malady, so I'm going to have Way of the Crane available again. It won't be as big of a Way of the Crane as it was before though. So try to kind of delay using my Thunder Focus T a bit there, then I DPS. Since it's not as big, I'm probably going to roll out at the end here. Yeah, because when that curse ends, there's a circle and it does AoE to everyone around you, so I want to make sure I get out of melee. The first time I just kind of stayed in because the rogue didn't have the debuff and we were all so safe that I wasn't too worried about cleaving people, and I just kind of greeted. So we get to Briar again. Jagged Nettles went on the mage blocked it, and we're gonna kill the boss here. Okay, so now we're gonna go over here and do this pull that we were supposed to do before. Get the Thistle Acolyte. We're gonna kill the toads. I did forget to drink here before we pulled this. That's a big mistake, but we should be fine anyways. We're gonna kill the toads, and then I think we're gonna drag this out into the hallway and pull some guards and whatever witch is here. See which RNG we get. Okay, we get a Rune Weaver. So we have a Rune Weaver, a Captain, a Guard, and an Acolyte. So the Rune Weaver isn't too scary. You just let her cast the Etch so she's not hitting your tank. I just Fort Brew that. So then you want to try and get stops on, I think it's the Captains that do the cleave, if you can, or maybe it's the Guard. It's kind of escaping me right now. So you want to try and get stops on the cleave because it's going to kind of hurt your tank a lot. If you need to, you can ring a piece that Guard and Captain off your tank, but it won't ring a piece the Rune Weaver off. And the only other thing to watch out for here is the Captain's Spirited Defense, which you can interrupt. If they don't interrupt, you can always just belt it off for them. Okay, so as you can see, we're only at 53% count right now. It's kind of Monka-esque. We're a little bit scared of our timer right now. But we do have left the Huntsman's Lodge and the Soul Essences. So as you see, we already went to one big circle around Waycrest. We're about to do another half lap here because we got top right. And the routing just kind of sucks when you get that. Do a lot of running. Alright, so I'm going to drink. And next year we're going to pull these Soul Essences. I mean, these aren't too scary. You can kind of just get like RNG down. It's a nice place to press Way of the Crane. So you don't want to press Way of the Crane here if you think you're going to kill them really fast and you're going to pull the next pull, assuming it's like Huntsman's Lodge or Sisters next really quickly. You might want to save it, but since this is a 25 and we're saving our damage, I make the gamble that I'll have Way back up for the beginning of the Huntsman's Lodge pull. You want to try and make sure that your DPS are getting interrupts on these Scar Souls, especially when they're all synced up. And AoE stops. One kind of scary thing about AoE stops though is that it also can aid them in being synced up, and that's where it gets scary. You do die on this pull though. Thankfully the release is right there. Alright, so next we're going to do Huntsman's Lodge. Again, as a healer, you want to make sure that you are way far around the corner so you're not instantly snapping all the healer threat. And in this room, so you have to worry about the survivalists and marksmen. It's kind of RNG and how many survivalists or marksmen you get. It's good that you guys assign kicks. So I'm waiting until he gets threat. And then I'm going to press Way of the Crane. So you just want to watch out for these traps. No, you cannot clear the traps while you're in Way of the Crane. So you get this AoE disease on you. So I'm just going to Way heal through this one. I could revival this, but since I have Way up, I'd rather save my revival for when I don't have it up and that happens again. It's that Severing Serpent cast. So we get that second one, the second one goes off, and I revival it. Other thing I have to worry about for it is traps on this. As you can see, our mage in the back is like dancing, trying to dodge them all in TPS at the same time. He's not having a fun time with it. If you get a bunch of traps like in melee or something, your rogue can always just cloak and clear them for you. Yeah, other than that, just have to try and get your kicks on this pole and not get hit by traps. I think our demon hunter either died to a trap or melee. I can't exactly remember, but again, since we're right there at the beginning of the dungeon, he just got to release and come back and it wasn't a big deal. And the Mage's Combust kind of carried us there. So we still have a lot of mobs in this hallway. So we have 3 peasants again, 3 maggots, and a pig. That was a good nether from our demon hunter because he was definitely dead if he didn't do that. So we're going to wave the crane here. So once again, we're wave the craning here, and we have to think about when these peasants die, they're going to spawn a bunch of maggots, and do we want to wave the crane? So I popped a fuse there, which I don't think I should have, looking back at it. Probably should have saved it for the next set of maggots. We're just going to DPS down these peasants. The maggots are going to spawn, so I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, I didn't exactly get all the way out of melee, but I also wasn't standing in the middle of them, so I drop low here, but I don't die. Yeah, okay, so the maggots spawn, and I kind of run away, but I don't. And then I run back in. I don't really know what I was doing. Anyways, don't do that. Just, you gotta kind of, like, back away for a couple more seconds than that. So something unfortunate happens here. So our mage gets hit with 4 spits, and he cauterizes. And then he decides he's gonna go line the next set of spits. However, by doing that, I couldn't heal him. Like, if he had stayed in, Way the Crane would have healed him through that, even though he cauted. But since he went and lined around the pillar to try and prevent getting more stacks, I wasn't able to heal him. So, big problem though. So I decided to pop away on those maggots, and that was a mistake. Because this pole has gorgers and maggots. We definitely wanted to save Way for that, and we weren't thinking. So there's a table in the back where our mage is. So our demon hunter has got 6 stacks. He's probably going to die here. We tried to revival to save him. Yeah, he's dead. Dies the last tick. Very unfortunate. But yeah, so our mage is back on the table there, making it so the gorgers aren't jumping anywhere. We're trying to move out of wretches. We do have to worry about when this peasant dies getting some more maggots, but other than that, this should be a pretty simple pull for us. I got nature locked. Oops. That's okay, you can keep spinning. Just spin to win, man. I do have Way back up. I'm definitely going to be saving it because next we're going to be going into the basement where we're going to be pulling Matron Alma with a Thorn Shaper. I think there might be one other teeming mob and some dogs. So yeah, maggot spawn. Remember to kill those. Super annoying in this dungeon when you pull peasants. So I just have to heal through the spits. Good place to use Thunder Focus Tea on Vivify. The extra mastery helps a lot with keeping people alive through that. Okay, so yeah, so we're going to go downstairs. We already did all of the obelisks upstairs. So if we need Shroud, we'll just use Shroud, but we're just killing all the stuff that's in the way anyway, so we don't even need it. It's a nice no rogue dungeon except for that Shroud at the beginning. Okay, yeah, so there's a Diviner and a Thorn Shaper, and there's Matron Alma. So Matron Alma is pretty... It's a lot of count, and it's pretty efficient if you have a warrior because they can reflect that dot that makes them take double damage. Never thought of trying to diffuse it before. Maybe one day I'll try that. So right now our tank is, so you've probably seen that warriors do this on the second to last boss in this dungeon, where they kind of intervene back and forth to try and delay the chaos so they can get as many spell flex as possible, which is what our tank is trying to do. He's using the statue, and I think Menace, our mage, is over there in the corner. He's intervening to him. You do have to kind of play triage on this pull with deciding to dispel your tank or dispel the Thorn Shaper dots. Most of the time, our tank is just a liver on this pull, so I usually just end up dispelling the Thorn Shaper dots. And then, of course, when he gets Matron Alma also applies a curse, and our mage is dispelling that. That's the only decurse you have to worry about on this pull. Matron Alma does have a few stacks. It looks like Hope she'll just die soon. The other nice thing is if she has a lot of stacks and your warrior has reflect up, it does a lot of damage to her. It's kind of pog, but also kind of risky. Okay. Some unfortunate attempts at eating here and wasting about 1,000 golden feasts. We'll try again. Okay, so we're eating. So next we're gonna do this. This is basically just everything in the basement. It's a good place for revival when you get a few of those dots out, if you need it. Also, Way of the Crane really powerful here, especially at the beginning. You usually want to do the beginning because you're also having the soul essences up at the beginning, and they don't live too much longer. But the scar souls do hurt. Yeah, you can diffuse that dot if you need to. Does good damage to them as well. Fuse is really good in this dungeon on all the bosses and basically all the trash. Okay, so we're gonna finish these off, and then we're gonna pull Lord and Lady Waycrest. So Lord and Lady Waycrest is actually kind of like sleeper hard as a healer most of the time. You do have a bit of alleviation because of you do have the disease dispel, so the dot that the Lord puts out you can kind of heal through. So normally I like to weigh on pull and just heal through that first initial damage that we're getting from Matron Alma. So important to note, you should only weigh when Discordant Candeza is not going on. Discordant Candeza is that dot, the little swirls on the ground. So whenever the swirls are going on, there's basically no damage going out except for damage on the tank, damage from Lord Waycrest applying the dot to someone, and if people are sitting in swirlies. But even then, if you just want to finish a cast in swirly, you're gonna be fine because that stuff barely hits you. But in between Discordant Candeza is when she's up there doing that Racking Chord, the same spell she does downstairs. And she's randomly targeting people. The damage is a little bit unpredictable. She can sometimes just choose to pick on someone and almost global someone. It gets really scary sometimes. So again, to note, our warrior tank is doing what he was doing upstairs, where he's intervening to the mage, so the mage is always standing there, and then he's also intervening to my statue on purple. That way he can try and get as many reflects on Lord Waycrest as possible, and he doesn't have to eat that many wasting strikes, if any at all. I think if they do it correctly, they don't have to eat any of the wasting strikes. They always get to reflect them. So we're just finishing up our way here during this Racking Chord phase. And then I think Lady Waycrest is about to come down. So when Lady Waycrest comes down, there's significantly less healing just on your tank. Your tank is taking a bit more damage. So normally during this phase, you're focusing Lady Waycrest. I'm probably just focusing on healing, not paying that much attention to who I'm even DPSing. But yeah, you normally want to focus Lady Waycrest when you have a warrior tank because they can kill Lord Waycrest with Spell Reflect. Any other tank though, you probably want to kill Lord Waycrest because it's going to get very scary very fast. It's also important when you're doing this fight to communicate to your melee that you're going to be dispelling them, especially if they're used to like running with like a Fodum comp of like a Resto Druid. They'll normally just like stay in for a couple seconds with the debuff, and then they'll kind of like dash out last second before it expires. But you want to make sure to let them know, hey, I'm going to dispel it as soon as it goes on you, so they know that as soon as they get that debuff, they need to kind of step outside of melee so you can dispel them safely. Okay, so after this, we're going to pull the dogs. We usually pull all the dogs together. So there's two spots where a ranged player can go and stand to make sure that these dogs aren't going to jump all over people and do a lot of damage. So one of them is up on this tombstone, which our mage is up there right now. Well, I'm getting a drink and we can't see. So you see he's up here. So now you can either go up here or there's a spot in the back of the room up in the cubby where they can stand. So if you go back in that cubby spot, normally you might want to ring them as soon as these gloom horrors are coming up so they don't leap right away, and so that you can drag the gloom horrors to the back of the room. However, since he's up in this spot, I don't have to use ring and I can save ring for later. But some of them do jump, so maybe I should have ringed. Thankfully we love those. Yeah, it's also a little bit sketchy on this pole with quaking because then you kind of have to spread out and you're afraid they're going to leave as well. Thankfully, once again, the warrior root clap is pretty useful here. My warrior calls for ring here, so it doesn't have to take that many melees. You can also use some AoE stuns and stuff like that to try and stop some of the shadow claws. It's also kind of nice if you can stun them and try and sync them up. That way your warrior can mass reflect them all. A little bit hard to pull off, but really valuable if you can. This pull is mostly scary with things like on-death affixes and necrotic, but on affixes like this, it's not that scary. Okay, so we're going to finish off this pull. And then we're going to go down to do Gorak Tool. So the only obelisk we have left is the kick obelisk. So when you're doing the kick obelisk, especially with the comp like this, there's going to be some kicks that you're not able to get because you have to interrupt the chain lightning on Gorak Tool. And you have to interrupt Void Weaver, and you're going to run out of kicks. So that can be alleviated if you get lucky and some of the casts go onto your tank. Also as well, if he comes out here and he's casting and you don't have a kick, you can always come back here in line. And at some point, I'm pretty sure in this fight we have like our mage line of casts. But other than that, we got pretty decently lucky. Like he got to spell reflect that first cast, I think. So yeah, also for the first Death Touch Slaver that comes out and dies, I usually like to ask my mage to burn that one so I can just stay in and wave the crane at the beginning. You can stop the slavers with either, I use paralysis there to stop that slaver, you can also ring them, or you can leg sweep them. Someone's gonna die. I'm gonna start going for fires now because my way has been down for a while and I should probably start helping. So yeah, you can see our mage is lining right there. Lined that last cast. So you want to make sure you burn the little guys before the Dread Essence goes out, of course. You should probably bind your extra action button. I just don't have mine bound right now because when I'm doing, every time when I do Nazoth, I'm always afraid I'm gonna fat finger the neck button and wipe us. So I don't bind it. But yeah, you probably should. You're probably not like me, you're not gonna fat finger it. But after that, this fight is pretty standard. This fight gets a little bit sketchy around, like, I would say around this mark, when you start getting a little bit overrun, but then it gets alleviated when your mage gets combust back up. It's important that you're communicating if somebody else is picking up fire. Oh, I'm burning this one, you save for next one. Every single time one ad spawns, there's going to be one fire that spawns, and most of the time you can get 2 ads with 1 fire, so you end up just having extra fire anyways. But it's still important to try and communicate just to make sure that no disasters happen, because these ads get out of control. This fight gets out of control. So I think this fight goes on like another like minute longer. I was actually really surprised that we timed this key because we had 8 deaths, which is kind of a lot in a 25, and we got top right, and it felt like we actually like ran like 17 kilometers in circles around this dungeon. But yeah. And if you're wondering, in this dungeon, I probably should have talked about this at the beginning, but I was running, I think I was running 50% versatile. I usually run versatile corruption to get extra value from my secret infusion, and just pretty much all stats are good for Mistweaver right now. And then like I have like a mind flay 1, a gushing, and flash of insight. And then you can always see all my talents and azurite and essences up in the top left. Yeah, that's basically it. Thank you guys all for watching, and if you have any more questions that I didn't address in this video, you can always stop by my stream at twitch.tv/Korome, where I can try and answer any questions that you guys may have, and I'll try to post some more videos. If you have any more suggestions about what I can do to make these commentaries better for you guys, I'm also open to that. So thank you guys.